Well, I think this is going to be a feisty one. Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. Delighted today to be joined by Pat Kelly and Andrew Busby. Hi, both. How are you doing?
Hi, Simon. Very well. How are you?
Good. Hi, Andrew.
Yeah, hi Simon. Yeah, better than Pat, I would say I am.
So we start as we mean to go on. So for anybody listening, this is probably going to set the tone for the rest of the conversation. Two old guys and one slightly younger guy, let's say, two with no hair, one with a bit more. So we can phrase it any way we want. So that gives you a visual picture and the tone of the conversation to go. So Andrew, you've been on before talking about the retail reflection stuff. Pat, this is your first time on the Rethink podcast, but we're going to talk today about SafePrem with the premise on kind of what is the way out of this pandemic and these various lockdowns. Before we get into the detail, let's find out a bit more about both of you, and then we'll find out about SafePrem, which is a business you both come together to form. So, Andrew, let's start with you. Give us a bit of a career biog and let us know a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. So I'll focus on the retail. So I've been in retail for a lot less than Pat because he's that much older than I am. I've only been in retail for just over 20 years. Although Pat and I have got something in common, we both worked at Kingfisher. I was at Superdrug, and that really got me started on my retail journey and ignited the passion, shall we say, which I know that both Pat and I have both got to this day. Spent a number of years with various technology companies, working with primarily tier one retailers. And then a number of years ago, I left that corporate world, if you like, and started Retail Reflections, which is a retail analyst company. We write and we used to speak around the world about retail, but of course that all stopped in March. I guess the rest of it I'll leave for when we talk about SafePrem. But yeah, if you think of me as a stick of rock and cut me open, then retail's running through and through me.
Brilliant. And Pat, your journey, Andrew makes out it was kind of when the art was around, but I'm sure it was a bit later than that.
Well, first of all, thanks for the little bonus nap because I nodded off there while Andrew was prattling on. He says that I'm a lot older than him. I think there maybe only been months between us, but I've been working harder than he has because my career in retail spans 40 odd years. My background started with Debenhams, both in the UK, and it actually ended with Debenhams running all of the Debenhams stores across the Middle East for Alshire, the big franchise group out there. Spent a lot of time with Arcadia, running Arcadia brands, Topshop, Dorothy Perkins, Burton's, etc. I was there when we opened up the huge Topshop Oxford Circus store, which was and still is the biggest fashion store on the globe. Did spend some time with Kingfisher, not very long, and also spent time with Claire's Accessories running their European operations, and I was Deputy MD at Harvey's Furnishing. So retail through and through, in the UK, all over the world, fashion, home, pretty much every sector apart from food. And I finished in the Middle East. I'm here down in Spain now, and I started my consultancy, Alive Retail, some 3-4 years ago. And Andrew and I have sort of skirted around each other. We know each other through the communications route, the speaking route in retail, and also we're both rather prodigious bloggers and posters on various social media. And then we bumped into each other, and from there, a star is being born.
Tell us about this star then. I don't know who wants to go first, but you've come together, both co-founders of SafePrem. So what's it about? What's the aim? What's the purpose?
I'll kick off and then I'll hand over to Pat because actually he describes it very well. We consider ourselves a bit of a movement, a cause, very much a service if you like. We saw early in the first lockdown, companies were kind of looking in one particular way at this, and we thought, well, no, there's probably a different way to do this, and we got introduced to a number of different technologies. And I'm not talking here, by the way, about PPE and hand sanitizer and that sort of thing. We're looking at far more sophisticated, if that's the right word, technologies to help all types of premises, but for the purpose of this conversation, retail premises, to make their premises as safe as they possibly can. And we created a directory, what we believe is the world's first and only directory of its kind, which creates all these technologies in one place for premises owners to access, to look at, as I say, a different way and a different route to hopefully being able to open and stay open throughout this pandemic. But Pat, I'll leave to you to be far more articulate.
Well, you haven't left much for me to cover now, Andrew. I think I'll do the runners and riders for the 4:15 from Wincanton, and the shipping forecast. So I'll try and add some colour to that rather monochrome intro. Now, Andrew's absolutely right. We feel that we've hit upon something that is vastly, vastly important. We're all living with these lockdowns. We're all living with the massive disruption to our own personal lives, our business lives, our consumer lives, and our family lives. And a big part of that is a real lack of confidence that we are safe when we enter into a public space, sharing that space with other people. The efforts made so far, whilst certainly of merit, have not really been sophisticated enough to really offer the level of safety that we should all deserve. We're called SafePrem, and we've created this construct, the safer journey construct, and we've used the acronym of SAFER, SAFER, and we've covered every single part of the potential and actual journey of people visiting a store, a restaurant, a bar, a sports stadium, entertainment venue, an office, a school, a university. And it starts so going through SAFER. S is for secure, and that's for those people who either want to pretty much avoid that public space or at least limit their exposure to contact with other people to a barest appointed minimum. So we work with a great business called Houdini, who really are leading the way in appointment apps, virtual queuing, and just keeping your time slot so that you really do not have to spend too much time with somebody who could be a vector of the virus. And then that can also move on to live streaming. That's an amazing thing that's happening out of China. Not really taken hold here yet, but will. And this COVID moment will probably usher it on. And that's all about live stream selling. So that's an ability for people, again, to get involved in the retail offer without actually having to be in the space. Then it's A for arrival, those who actually do make the journey. And that is all around how you can determine at the front of a premises whether you can go in safely. That could be a traffic light system. It could be an occupancy LED system that shows you whether it's safe to go in or not. It certainly can do checks like your temperature using a heat thermometer, checking if you're wearing a mask and dispensing one if you're not, and dispensing hand sanitizer. And we're working with some brilliant businesses that have got some great ideas in that space. Then it's on to F, feel and touch, which is all about antimicrobial sprays, but also a little bit more technical than that. For instance, we're working with a great business called Lemon, and their big deal is that they have this tunnel that you put at the entrance of probably a larger venue. You go through the tunnel and a vaporized sanitizer is sprayed on you, and you enter the building absolutely viral or bacterially free, offering no threat to anybody, and is safe in the knowledge that everyone else in the building has gone through the same process. Then you're on to E, explore, probably for bigger venues. And we work with an amazing business out of the US called the Indoor Lab. And they have what they call LiDAR technology cameras, which essentially is like imagine a radar screen. Each one of us, as we move around the premises, are picked up as a blip. And it shows our trail that we followed and a potential trail that we're going to take. And it ensures that no bunching or accidents that will happen in terms of social distancing will take place. They're working with Orlando Airport at the moment, and Orlando Airport have already said the cost of implementation has been covered by the savings they've made in cleaning, because they've had to be deep cleaning, microbial cleaning every part of the terminal 7 times a day to meet with the exacting standards. Now they do it twice a day, plus only if there is a situation that's been alerted to them by the Indoor Lab. So that's great. And then finally, R, restore. That's all about restoring clean air. And we're working with a lot of companies who do what they call HEPA technology, but more importantly, UV light. And UV light is proven to zap the airborne virus. And these units would send out UV light, zap the virus, put it into a carbon chamber, it's gone, and then but new fresh air that's been ionized, so it's actually 3 times cleaner than normal air. So that is the whole run, SAFER, Safer. We have them all on our website, in our directory. At the moment, you go and you can navigate the directory by way of each of the safer stages. But we're also looking now, and we're working with a team to put it onto an app. And with the app, one of the first things that a client would do when downloading the app is they would download a self audit where they'll go through the whole safer journey in their premises and give themselves a review and a heat map result of how they are performing in their space across that safer journey. A great opportunity for them to see what they need. Then we can link them up with the solutions providers that are best in class for each of those needs. And finally, we really want to work hard to get the governments to get them to actually think about the money they're spending rather than keeping us home on furlough, sitting still, getting us out, getting us working, and actually offering some grants to placeholders to be able to afford these incredible solutions. End of sermon.
Has he finished yet?
Yeah, he's done. You can wake up now.
I've got to say, I mean, I'm always grateful to Pat because he gives me time on these podcasts to just catch up on my emails and have a quick nap, but at the same time.
There you go. There's the whole point, completely cast asunder.
Well, joking aside, guys, I think it's an amazing thing you've done and brought together. We'll put a link to the website when this goes out so people can find it. But actually, it's something until we got chatting a couple of weeks ago, I hadn't really thought about. If I was still in retail, certainly retail operations, I'm sure there's people that have been on, wild goose hunts for PPE and the other things that sit around this. But then the functional, and we'll come on to it in a second, how do we live in the shadow of this pandemic for however long it's going to be and what's the way out? This answers all those, and that journey-led approach, brilliant. So, we'll pop a link up so people can find it easily and connect to you guys when this goes out. This kind of then brings us on to the whole topic that we were going to talk about. So what is the way out of this? But more poignant today at the time of recording, we've just had announced the new tier system as we move out of the second national lockdown. So we're at a moment in time where people are accepting the fact that Christmas is going to be really, really strange. They won't see loved ones. Certainly that whole run up to Christmas, if you're in level 3, is going to be difficult because hospitality is still closed other than takeaways and lots of other things. A couple of green shoots, football crowds and sports crowds are allowed back at various tiers, and grassroots football and other sports are allowed back, which I think is a massive positive for kind of the mental well-being of all those populations of people that affects. There's still this big shadow of the pandemic that's going to be here until Christmas. I suspect it's going to be here maybe forever. Or the thought of what next. So how can we live in this shadow? And it might get lighter. I'm sure it'll cast itself all the time. Probably one, we'll give Pat a rest, shall we, Andrew? We'll come to you first, let him get his breath.
Yeah, he'll need to have a lie down after that monologue. How do we live with it? I think the answer's in the question a little bit, in as much as yes, we do have to learn to live with it. There are risks every time. Well, not even when we walk out the front door, there are risks in our own homes. And for me, one of the things that this has done is to inure people to the fact that seemingly they want to have a completely risk-free life. Whenever I get talking to people about this, I tend to say to them, well, look, what set of circumstances do we need to create or to happen in order, for example, for us to stop needing to wear face masks, face coverings? And it's quite an interesting one, isn't it? But, what does need to? But, yeah, I think, it's great news that we've got vaccine just around the corner. But that's not going to be the panacea that I think the government, certainly in the UK, because we should also add that from a SafePrem point of view, we're looking globally. But yeah, we tend to be a little bit UK and retail centric at the moment. So we're being led by the government to believe that, come Easter, it's all going to be okay and we can all get back to normal, which of course is nonsense. That's not going to happen. We know that anything up to a third of the population in the UK may not take the vaccine, which means that the virus will continue to be in circulation. We know that in response to the vaccine, because this virus is a very clever little devil, has already started to mutate to fight against the vaccine. So to your point, Simon, yeah, I think we are going to be with this for many, many years. A bit like post 9/11, we're now, and that was a good few years ago. Of course, our flying habits and the process that we need to go through is different, and that will remain with us. I will stop prattling on because I need a break now. I'm sure Pat has got plenty to add, but maybe he'll give the brief version this time.
I think that, first of all, I agree with what Andrew says, which hurts. There is a bit more to this, though, and it is true that people are seeing. I mean, God, we've been given so much bad news for so long. We can be forgiven for getting a bit sort of celebratory around the vaccine coming down the track, but it won't quite work as quickly and as completely as we'd like. But do you know what? Even outside of COVID, before COVID came along, there was already a pandemic in waiting, which was all around bacteria that has now gotten itself so much smarter so as to beat any antibiotic that's thrown at it. And this whole worry about superbacteria is still there. It's lost the headlines, but it's still there. And maybe another COVID, another pandemic might come along. But even if neither of those things happen, one thing has definitely taken place, and it refers to the effect that Andrew mentioned about flying, is that we've been awakened now to something we just took for granted before. It is important that we protect ourselves. It's important that the air we breathe is clean. It's important that we're not picking up virus and bacteria from other people. It's important that staff in a setting, let's say in a restaurant or in a store, are being protected as well as the customers. And a lot of these things that we're putting in place, we intend for there eventually to be a SafePrem accreditation mark, like the kite mark for safety in public spaces. And that will go beyond COVID. These are safety measures. We are living, breathing organisms, and there's lots of nasties around on surfaces and in the air that can come and attack us. Let's have, as a normal standard way of doing things, safe, protected premises that show that we're aware of those dangers that are around us. So the exit out of COVID is going to be long. It will happen in 2021. But the way of life that we need to adopt post-COVID will go way beyond 21 and probably stick into the future that we can all see much further out.
Is the world going to be a place where face masks just become a way of life? Is that going to disappear off? In my mind, I see people sticking with it, to be honest, quite a high percentage. I think it's, you've seen them evolve into fashion accessories to a degree with all the styling. But from a practical point of view, do you think they'll be around for the foreseeable onwards now?
Well, we've seen it Andrew, we've seen it in the Far East that they've stayed. And in fact, we all had a bit of a chuckle at these people from the Asian countries. Why do they keep walking around with masks? It's quite funny. But actually, that's because they've already been through MERS and SARS. And that's why it was so easy for them to adopt the compliance that they had to do to tackle the virus in the Far East. I don't think we will stick with masks. I think there is something in our societies, Anglo-Saxon society, European, Americans, as you can see, they're all pretty much against it anyway, most of them. And there is something around you need to have all of those contortions of your face fully in visibility to communicate. So I don't think it will be masks, but I think it will be clean air. I think it will be clean surfaces. And I think it will be better layout and organisation in public premises to keep us safe.
Yeah, again, it really hurts to agree with Pat. But what I would add is I think that with face coverings, we might see that in certain situations, more people choose to wear them. So what I'm thinking of here is, for example, the London Underground. Now, of course, the London Underground, I think almost permanently in terms of numbers of travellers will be affected by this, because of course we know that people aren't all going to go flocking back to work in their offices like they used to pre-pandemic. But even so, the tube is going to be crowded, is going to be busy. Not sure when that will happen, but it's probably going to. And I think the more people will probably wear face coverings there. But generally, I agree, Pat. I think that our Anglo-Saxon instinct, I think our sense of civil rights, which we've seen quite a lot of in the US, I think that that will have an impact.
You touched on it before, Pat, around better ways for the government to spend money. Clearly, there's been a big investment in keeping lots of people at home to keep them safe, to stop them mixing, and that clearly can't go on forever. The world's got to keep spinning, and lots of retailers, we need to get them open, otherwise they're never going to open their doors again, especially when you start to venture into some of your old world in terms of fashion. What way out is there in terms of, or different approaches there for the government to still keep us safe, keep us in an environment which stops the virus spreading as best we can, without us all being paid in essence, or partly paid, to stay at home?
Yeah. Look, I think Rishi Sunak did the financial statement yesterday, and it laid out there for all to see that we're in the worst recession now for 300 years. Borrowing is at the highest it's ever been, and it is going to be a long haul out of there. And the US, once Trump's handed the keys over, and Janet Yellen at the front, used to be at the Fed and will be running all the finances, she'll have to get through that new stimulation package, and then the austerity will kick in there. And Europe, Germany are just now facing another huge spike in the virus, and they're having to lock down. These lockdowns, even after the vaccine, they'll probably still be around us. And what we're saying is, look, there has to be investment from governments, but invest that into the opening. That has to be put into the opening of stores and restaurants and all public places. There are solutions out there. The money spent, grants by the government to do that, that will get the economy running again. It will get people back to work again. It will get people buying, consuming again. And then the money is going somewhere. It's creating wealth. So we do hope there is going to be a shift. And by God, we will do, even Andrew and I might even unite and actually have the same opinion, and we'll go together and get governments to national, regional, local, and international, to really get after this. It's hugely important. The investment's got to be into keeping us open, not keeping us closed.
So in terms of, and again, I think it was you, Pat, that touched on it before, that the East and the West have very different approaches to this, because the East have, as you said, felt smaller pandemics that haven't thankfully made their way over to the West. And is their approach different in terms of how they're going to come out of it and deal with it? Or do you think we're learning from them, they're learning from us?
Well, I'm going to pass over to Andrew on this one, because he showed me something amazing, a video of a sort of mall of the future from China, which I think really points towards where this can go. Andrew, that amazing Chinese mall?
Yeah, no, this was something that I attended a webinar back in, I think it was April, May time, that was run, plug here, I think I think it was the World Retail Forum. And during that, they showed about a 2 or 3 minute video, and I'm sure it's probably still somewhere on their site, of a shopping mall in, I believe it was Beijing. And it was just fascinating, all the controls that they had in terms of people, not only when they entered, but whilst they were in there and moving around the shopping mall. Back then, the seeds of SafePrem were still being sown, if you like. But when we look at all the partners that we've now got and the solutions that we got within the SafePrem directory, then if a premises holder was to join all those up in terms of the safer journey, then they would probably pretty much be able to replicate that amazing scenario that we saw a number of months ago. So I think they're ahead of us.
The other thing that was amazing about it was that every single one of those solutions, as they sort of liquid flowed in that mall, they were all there to provide a frictionless, enjoyable experience. So they were safety measures, but with each one came an improvement in how you transact or go about your shopping in a mall compared to before. And a lot of the solutions we work with, like Qdini, they make the whole, Toodle, who are another one with payment solutions, they make the whole process of selecting, buying, paying so much easier, as well as safer. So it's not putting barriers up. It's not perspex screens. It's not closing aisles. These are all solutions that not only keep you safe, but actually make the experience more pleasant, more enjoyable, quicker if you need it, and more automatic.
I think I would just add to that, Simon, that we've got to, I think probably in the West, in Europe and here in the UK, we've got to change our attitude to the fact and think of things like face coverings and hand sanitizer as the last line of defense, not the first. And the other thing I would say when we're talking about the East-West, if you're a premises holder of certainly larger, so I'm thinking now of conference centres, sports stadia, look at what is going on in Japan. And the reason why I say that is not just for the sushi, but they're preparing for the Olympics next year. And one of the things that experimented with a trial in a stadium in Yokohama just a few weeks ago was trying to get at least, I believe it was either 50 or 75% occupancy crowd numbers in that stadium. And so they were using all sorts of technologies, most of which we have within the SafePrem directory, to try to make a sports stadium. And of course, as I think you mentioned, Simon, at the top of this, that with the new tier rules coming in, depending on whether you're in tier 2 or 3, you can have a certain number of people within the ground, so fans can start to return to watch, which is great. But I think that we need to look at what's going on there. And as I say, it's heartening because from a SafePrem directory point of view, we've got all those solutions that people can use.
Amazing. And I really, it made me think actually as you were saying it, and you'll be amazed, Pat, but the mask and the sanitizer is the last line of defense, not the first line, because clearly this pandemic, we've used it as first line defense, haven't we? It's the go-to: sanitize your hands, wash, put a face mask on. But that, like you say, isn't sustainable. Guys, I think we could carry on for ages talking about this, but I'm not sure everybody listening would want to hear us all squabble. It's been a blast. I really enjoyed it. It's one of the more light-hearted conversations we've had on what's been a really difficult topic in a difficult year. If people want to find out more about SafePrem and you guys, where's the best place for them to reach out?
Well, you can find us on www.safeprem.com. Andrew, you have SafePrem on Twitter.
Yes, sorry, Pat. It's at safe_prem on Twitter.
Search SafePrem on LinkedIn, you'll see, and we're constantly posting updates, views on what's going on. We try and keep in touch with what's going on with the WHO, anything that comes out on the vaccines and any of the big decisions made by governments. You know, we're into this now, and we think that there is a clean and safe future, and we're here to help bring it about.
Yeah, I'm a massive advocate of what you're doing and encourage everybody listening to share it and get on board and kind of follow the movement. Guys, it's been a blast. You've not upset each other too much, I hope, on this one. And look after yourselves, stay safe, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah,
thanks
you
very much, Simon.
Too, Simon. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.